Good evening. My name is Becca, and I'm a student at Texas A&M University, and I also work at the indoor climbing facility as a climbing wall instructor at A&M. So, climbing is one of those sports that I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited to share with you a little bit about the sport and how you can get into it. So, many of you may know of or have heard the name Alex Honnold. He's a famous climber, and he recently filmed a documentary called Free Solo, and this documentary follows him as he ascends El Capitan at Yosemite National Park. This climb, according to National Geographic, was an over nearly 3,000 foot climb. He did this entire climb with no safety equipment. But don't get the wrong idea, that's not where I'm going. So people like him had to start climbing somewhere. And I'd like to give you a little bit of an overview of where you can start climbing, how you can start climbing too, and the gear that's necessary to be safe. So there are 3 different types of climbing that I'd like to discuss today: bouldering, top rope climbing, and lead climbing. The first one I'd like to talk about is bouldering. So bouldering is probably climbing at its simplest form and only requires minimal gear. There are no ropes required, and the wall that you're climbing up is only about 14 to 15 feet high. All the routes are set in one single color, and they're normally called problems. And these problems are rated on a scale called the V scale and range anywhere from V0 to V16. And according to REI experts, this scale was named after a man named John Verman Sherman, Verman being his nickname. So all bouldering requires is just shoes and chalk, and if you're climbing outside, it requires a crash pad in case you fall. But yeah, so the second one that I'd like to talk to you about is top rope. Top rope climbing requires 2 people, one person on the ground belaying, and the other person the climber. So belaying is what the person is doing is taking slack out of the system as the climber ascends the wall. So if the climber falls, they're not taking a long fall. So top rope is typically on walls that are higher than the bouldering height of 15 to 20 feet. For example, the wall at Texas A&M is 45 feet tall. So what you need whenever you top rope are a harness, shoes, chalk, and a belay device. So this is what a harness looks like. This is what a typical harness looks like. So both the climber and the belayer need to be wearing a harness. The climber is tied in with a knot called a figure 8 follow through, using these 2 hard points on the harness. The belayer has their belay device hooked in and hooked to this belay loop here and locked. The carabiner is locked. So how does the ATC work? So, the ATC is a belay device. It's one of many types. And basically you feed the rope from the climbing end through this, and the free end comes through here. You put the carabiner through it and hook it to your harness, and you're ready to belay. So, top rope the climbs are also coordinated by color, and the rating system for the routes is a little bit different. So on the taller walls, they use the Yosemite decimal system, so it's a 5.0 and above, 5.0 being the easiest and going up. More advanced climbers climb about a 512 or higher. Yeah. So the last style of climbing that I'd like to talk about is called lead climbing. And lead climbing is a lot like top rope in the gear that you need. So each person is going to need a harness again. You'll need a belay device, shoes, chalk, and you also need a rope and what's called a quick draw. So quick draw, I don't have a solid example, but I can give you a little bit of a visual. So a quick draw is two carabiners attached together by a cord. And one end is going to go clip to the wall, and the other end you clip the rope in as the climber ascends. And essentially what the climber is doing is making their anchor point higher as they go up the wall. This is used for setting up top ropes outside, and it just gives the climber more of an adrenaline rush if they fall. So, yeah. The belayer in this instance is feeding rope to the climber instead of taking the slack out as the climber ascends. So it's a little bit different. It uses the same rating system as top rope climbing does. And yeah. So, a quick recap and conclusion. 3 different ways you can get into climbing. Bouldering is one. It's the simplest form of climbing, no ropes required. The second one is going to be top rope. That requires a little bit more. You have the top rope anchored at the top so you don't have much to fall as the belayer is taking slack out of the system. And then lead climbing. Lead climbing is for a little bit more advanced climbers, but totally worth it, totally fun. I challenge you to, next time you need to switch in your workout, find a climbing gym. You won't regret it. Thank you for your time.